Welcome into Northside Territory, presented by Fox One Foul Territory Network's Cubs podcast. I'm Sahadev Sharma with my partner Patrick Mooney. We are your Cubs beat writers over at The Athletic. Patrick, the Cubs live to play another day, another game at Wrigley. The fans get one more game at least. We'll see what happens. But it was a nail biter yet again. I feel like every win for them has been a nail biter this postseason. There have been no easy victories. The first two losses to the Brewers, obviously the Brewers had some ease there, but this one was not easy. I think Craig Counsell said after the game, Jameson Tyone gave him what he needed. That was the minimum amount he needed. He's like, I just needed 12 outs. Kind of the way that fourth inning went. He thought going into it, maybe I can get a fifth out of him. It did not go that way. They scored another run. And then it lined up to the bullpen as needed. And, they have these five arms that they're going to lean on in wins. And the guys did enough. I think the only mistake was Jake Bauers' home run off Andrew Kittredge. Certainly tense moments. I think the Brewers had their opportunities. I think you could say that about the Cubs to try and pad the lead. They had a couple opportunities. Neither team came up with the clutch hit, except for one big one, and that it all kind of happened in the first inning.
And that first inning, too, had a only in Wrigley sort of moment there that missed pop-up, an infield fly rule that was not applied in this particular case, and with good reason. I thought Tyone showed a lot to not let that inning spiral out of control, and that's really kind of who he is, right? Of just an extremely dependable, reliable person and pitcher, extremely consistent, and to keep it at that and to minimize the damage was huge, because otherwise, I mean, our stories would have been written of like, I think our buddy Paul Sullivan dropped a Cubby occurrence on the situation in his story for this morning. And that's kind of what it felt like. Uh-oh, here we go. And for him to stabilize that moment. And then also, like, they needed a credible starting pitching performance. Like, I get it, bullpens are more important here, and there's more off days and you can push guys, but they rode those relievers really hard to win a wild card round. And just what Boyd and Shota gave them was nowhere close to enough. So to organize the game that way was big. And we'll get into later, can they do it again, how they piece it together. But at least the fans at Wrigley get one more night of playoff baseball, and that should never be taken for granted.
Yeah, I mean, speaking of taken for granted, we probably all take Jameson Tyone for granted. I don't, and look, I don't believe he's this elite pitcher. He doesn't get enough swing and miss. He doesn't, he doesn't get the, all-star games. He's not going to get Cy Young votes. That's kind of who he is, but he's very stable. He's, I think back to last deadline, 2024, and people kind of assumed, like, why don't they trade this guy? And the way it was so flippantly thrown about, like, you just trade him at max value. And then at the same thought, they're thinking they can compete in 2025. Pitching, like, I think sometimes people just don't realize how hard it is to find competent pitching. You need there's all types of different pitching. There's the pitching you use to get through 162 and the pitching you use to win in the playoffs. And Jameson Tyone isn't the perfect type of postseason pitcher because he doesn't rack up strikeouts. And I think you want guys that miss bats, particularly in the playoffs. But there's something about him that he can overcome that. Like you said, that first inning probably would have spiraled out of control with a lot of other pitchers, not Jameson Tyone. He probably could have gone deeper in a normal game. Obviously, this is not a normal game. And the relievers, it's almost like you can tell they're not in perfect form right now, but they're doing what they need to do. I think a lot of this, in my opinion, falls back on the offense. Look, that was a huge hit by Pete Crow Armstrong in the first inning. It felt like it was about it. We talked to Craig Counsell about momentum in after the second game, the momentum of that the Andrew Vaughn home run, the 3-run homer. Cubs had the momentum, and I think there is momentum in a game. You could, I think it's really tough to carry that over in baseball to the next game, just because pitching is so incredibly important in baseball, and it all kind of shifts. But they don't get that hit from Pete Crow Armstrong, and they only score 1 run in an inning where they were knocking Quinn Priester around. It's like the opposite of what happened in Game 1. If Nico Horner makes that play, that everyone knows he should have, maybe it's a different feeling in a different game. If Pete Crow Armstrong strikes out instead of lining a single to score 2, maybe it's a different game. And it's just such a big, like, that was a moment when Carson Kelly struck out. I was like, this is bad. Like, you cannot miss this opportunity. They're going to, like, this is how they, like, this is just not a good situation for them, because you can't miss those opportunities. And it's like, it would be very deflating because Carson Kelly missed a double by 2 inches. Seiya Suzuki missed a double because Sal Frelick made an amazing sliding catch. I don't know how he made that catch. Like, literally 2 minutes later, the sun popped back out. It was like hiding behind clouds, and it would have been right in his face. And I wonder how much that would have impacted him. But still, even I don't care if there was no sun at that point in time. That was an amazing catch. And it just so many, like, tiny moments. One thing shifts and everything feels different. But right now, the offense did enough. They really could have done more, and that's probably, like, where you point to and say, like, this is how the team should be winning, because the pitching is kind of like, let's piece it together, and they're not doing it enough regularly to really put distance between them. But maybe that's just playoff baseball. Find a way to win. It's not supposed to be high scoring. Craig Counsell did say this. He's like, we're giving up too many runs. Playoff baseball is supposed to be low scoring. So I guess they did what needed to be done to win. So it's probably wrong of me to nitpick too much there.
You're the one who's supposed to be optimistic about the offense. That's your thing.
I know, and they're not delivering, so they're making me look bad.
That's true. That's true. I mean, a couple of us, I can't remember, honestly, if you were there at this point, Sahadev. We were talking to a Cubs person, and the field was pretty empty at this point, and there were 2 sort of pregame takeaways of, one, the wind blowing in will be good for Jameson Taillon, that he would be able to take advantage of that. That proved true. And the other point was they liked that matchup against Quinn Priester, a sinker baller on the mound that could give them a chance to force the action a bit, put some pressure on them. Obviously, not the same devastating swing and miss stuff that the Brewers feature prominently a lot of the time. And those things certainly played out. Credit to the Cubs for showing up and pushing this to another game. I think we can flip the show after the break here and sort of look ahead and see, like, did they find something? Is this sustainable, or is Milwaukee still very much have the upper hand here?
Yeah, let's take a quick break.
October baseball is here. The pressure's on, the lights are brighter, and with DraftKings Sportsbook, you're right there in the middle of every moonshot moment. DraftKings Sportsbook delivers the intensity of October with player props, live in-game betting, and odds that can change as fast as a ball flying over the fence. New customers bet just $5, and if your bet wins, you'll get paid out $200 in bonus bets instantly. Download the DraftKings Sportsbook app and use code FOUL. That's code FOUL to turn $5 into $200 in bonus bets if your bet wins. In partnership with DraftKings, the crown is yours.
Gambling problem? Call 1-800-GAMBLER. In New York, call 877-8-HOPE-NY or text HOPE-NY 467-369. In Connecticut, help is available for problem gambling. Call 888-789-7777 or visit ccpg.org. Please play responsibly. On behalf of Boot Hill Casino and Resort in Kansas, fees may apply in Illinois. 21 and over. Age and eligibility varies by jurisdiction. Void in Ontario. Bet must win to receive reward. Minimum minus 500 odds required. Bonus bets expire 7 days after issuance. For additional terms and responsible gaming resources, see dkng.co/audio.
Welcome back to Northside Territory presented by Fox 1. Patrick, they have game 4 tonight at Wrigley. 8:08 his first pitch. Thank you, Phillies, for making it so late for us. I'm sure as we record, Cubs fans are stressing out, and Craig Counsell is already thinking through how do we get through this game. Pitching wise, there hasn't at this point in time there hasn't been an announcement of who's starting. I think it's Matthew Boyd is going to factor into this game somehow. Probably getting the start, I would assume. I don't know if they go with an opener for him, but yeah, it's all in all likelihood. This is 4 days rest for Matthew Boyd. I know nowadays managers and organizations like to get more rest for their starters. They like the 5-day rest, but this is what they're faced with, and I think it's incredibly important that Matthew Boyd looks like that. Maybe not the first half version, but certainly not what we saw last start. At least the version that we saw against the Padres is what Craig Counsell is really hoping for.
Boyd Wednesday night was talking as if he's going to pitch in game 4. I'm with you. I would assume that's in a starting capacity, but at this point of the season, after everything we've seen in these playoffs, I guess you never know, right? But you were alluding to this earlier, like it's the playoffs, so you don't get graded on style points, but how they won game 3, I think just, and how they didn't kind of just blow the Brewers away. I think that is where you it gets hard to see like how they win the next 2. I think what the Cubs have been really good at this year, just kind of managing a series. Like, there's not a team that went on super long winning streaks. They're not a team that would just go into other cities and sweep teams left and right. It was more of this kind of methodical, conservative, creative approach to piecing together the innings puzzle, as Craig Counsell would say, deploying the outgetters in the right situations. And no doubt it worked. But if Boyd is off, if he's not sharp, it could be a long night. And that's just the point where, I've come away from this series thinking like, you absolutely want that first round bye. Like, I'm over is it better to sort of like stay in rhythm or experience the playoffs first? Like, no, I think how the Brewers have lined this up here, I think they're still in a really strong position, but that's why you play the games.
Yeah, and the only way it may work is if you have a deeper pitching staff.
Yeah.
It's just hard. 2 huge injuries over the course of the season to guys that obviously completely changed the complexion of a postseason pitching staff, and Justin Steele and Cade Horton. I don't think we've had a podcast since Cade Horton spoke, but it sounds like there was progress there, and Craig Counsell updated that he felt fine after the bullpen session, and he's throwing another one. Today's Thursday, correct? So he'll throw another one Friday. I'm assuming that happens if they win. I assume he's not going to be throwing a bullpen if they lose. So he's not pitching in this series. That's with the hopes of them advancing. Who knows what kind of impact he can have. I do think it completely changes the complexion of how you plan everything. It just changes everything. Their pitching is just so fragile right now. These guys are exhausted. You kind of look at what the Dodgers did in a sense, like they had all these I don't want to call them injury prone, but guys that have dealt with a lot of injuries in their careers in their pitching staff. And it's just kind of like, okay, they're not pitching that much during the regular season, but they're so good, it doesn't really matter. And now you just have a bunch of guys that you can choose from. It's like, okay, who's healthy? It's October. Go out there and dominate, and they're kind of doing that. So pretty, that's if you can pull that off, great. Not everyone has that payroll that the Dodgers do to be able to collect all these high risk, high reward arms. The Cubs certainly could use more depth. You could make all the complaints about the trade deadline that you want. They don't. This is what they're working with right now. I will say this: the relievers. It felt like at the time they were throwing more pitches. Nobody threw over 20 pitches yesterday. And Counsell was saying after the game that he's like, obviously we need to see how everyone comes in after throwing and all that stuff. But it sounds like everyone's, he, in his mind, he's looking as everyone's available again in game 4. I can't imagine any of those guys, unless they're dealing with something real, would say, I can't go, like some of this stuff. Like I was just looking at the pitches. Caleb Thielbar threw 11. He walked a guy and he still threw 11 pitches. Like like Brad Keller threw 18 pitches, I think, because 19 pitches, and that's 1 1/3 inning. Like I did not. I think those moments were so tense that I didn't realize like how good of a job they did limiting pitches. So good job by the pitching staff. Good job by Craig Counsell of like not pushing Daniel Palencia too far or anything like that. It seemed like it worked. He got the guys in the pockets that he wanted. It didn't work out perfectly, obviously, because they gave up some runs and there were some stressful situations. But just because somehow they limited the amount of pitches and these guys, we it's hard to measure that. Does a stressful situation tax a guy more than a 1-2-3 inning with nobody on base? I don't know. But certainly they're in better shape than you would imagine, having used all those relievers. And it's just kind of like we didn't even mention, we don't know who's starting yet for the Brewers either. I'm assuming Pat Murphy's going to go Freddie Peralta. My understanding is that's what he's going to do. So that's if they win this game, suddenly the momentum's on the Cubs side, or the confidence or the pressure is on the Brewers, whatever, however you want to describe it. But it's just not going to be easy. But one more chance at it, and baseball's weird, and we'll see what happens. That's pretty much how it feels right now.
And talking to a Cubs official during the workout on, was that Tuesday? Honestly, all these days are blending together. But the idea was, approached of like, someone's going to have to step up on the pitching side. Like it might not be someone we're thinking of immediately, not asking this individual to cover 6 innings, but if you have to cover 18 innings over 3 days with your pitching not in tatters, but you've expended a lot of resources pitching wise to get to this point. So it's guys stepping up on the pitching side, because you see like the Brewers just don't give away at bats. I mean, they were down 4-1 early and they just kind of kept chipping away at it. And one big swing there at the end, and we're having a season wrap-up podcast right now. You can go back to that Padres game, and the Padres do not have as, disciplined or as relentless a lineup as the Brewers do, but that one too was not very comfortable for Cubs people watching that ninth inning there. Like that was not, so those are kind of the margins you're dealing with here. And circling back to what you said earlier, the offense has to step up, whether it's Kyle Tucker, whether it's Michael Busch, continuing to do what he's done, PCA kind of staying within himself and coming up with a big hit. Ian Happ, Nico Horner, Dansby Swanson, guys who've been around as part of this build, waiting for this moment. Like Happ said it the other night in Milwaukee, like they've asked their pitchers to do a lot this postseason. They've put a lot of pressure on them. Thielbar throwing 11 pitches. There isn't a metric for it, but what do those 11 pitches feel like? How draining are they compared to, a getaway day in Cincinnati? I don't know, but they could give themselves some breathing room here. Coming home Wednesday night there, turning on the Phillies Dodgers games just to see what time we'd have to go to work. And it's like, at that point, I think the Phillies were up like 8-1. I was like, oh,
Yeah.
wow. Like that can happen too in the postseason. I think you have to, as for the fans at Wrigley Field who are like hanging on every pitch, there is another kind of way out there that your offense can score runs. Like every pitching decision doesn't have to be like life or death in terms of playoff viability. That not you could always, if you had a Kyle Schwarber, that helps. But someone in this lineup can deliver. Like they can kind of knock the Brewers out here early, and like the whole complexion of the game changes. It's still within their hands. They still have a chance here.
Yeah, and for those who just assume that Freddie Peralta is unhittable, he's an awesome pitcher. He's one of the best pitchers in baseball. The Cubs often do put up pretty good, battles against him. He's dominated them in the regular season. He's dominated them twice, and they've hit him twice. In the postseason, obviously, he pretty much dominated them outside of that first at bat, and then. And we'll see what happens Thursday night, assuming he's the starter. I'm not saying that these things work in a sense like, well, now they're due to hit him. It all depends. Like, can they grind out the at bats and get to Freddie Peralta, swing at the right pitches? It's all very simple stuff, quote unquote. But there's nothing too crazy going on. They're familiar with this guy. They're not. He's not some mythical creature that can that they just cannot hit, but it won't be easy. And I think I agree. Like what they really need, just like the pitching to just hold, just hold the offense down, hold the Brewers offense down. And they need a big hit. Someone needs to slug with men on and just deliver a blow where it's if the Cubs are up 2-1, just make it 5-1. And just like so guys can breathe a little bit, and maybe if you can even extend it more and not have to use all your high leverage arms, because then it's again all hands on deck. There's another game to still win. So that's the big thing that everyone needs to keep in mind. The Cubs can't be thinking like that. They have to win this game, but there's more wins to be had. So however you can save some arms, that would be ideal. We'll see how they can do it. It'll be a fun one at least. 8:00 game. I'm assuming people will be enjoying themselves in Wrigleyville. We'll see. It's interesting. Someone
a lot of work from home on Friday.
Yeah. A Brewers someone working with the Brewers the other day for the 8:08 game in Milwaukee was saying, like, I don't know what, like, he's like, I think the early game, it may be a little rowdier. They may be tired and a little too drunk by 8:08. Like, these guys may be out of it. Who knows how they're behaving? That the same can be said of the Cubs fans. I don't know. Hopefully they have the energy and can help will the Cubs to a win there for them. At least an entertaining game. We'll see. One more game at Wrigley at the very least. So thanks for listening, everyone. This is Northside Territory presented by Fox One. Make sure to rate, review, subscribe to our YouTube channel, and subscribe to The Athletic, where Patrick and I are covering all things Cubs. We'll have at least one more episode this week, and we'll see if we're talking season wrap up or crazy game 5. Thanks so much for listening, everyone. Take care.